Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ed Flynn. I'm the City Council President. Viewers can watch the council meeting live on YouTube by visiting boston.gov/citycouncil-tv. I'd like to ask my colleagues and those in the audience to please silence your cell phones and electronic devices at this time. Thank you. We'd also like to ask everyone to be respectful of each other and do not disrupt the meeting while you are here. If the audience is disruptive, you'll be asked to leave, and if you fail to comply, you will be escorted out. Please also note that according to City Council rules, there are no signs allowed in the council chamber. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll to ascertain the presence of a quorum, please?
Councilor Boyer. Present. Councilor Baker. Here. Councilor Barr. Here. Councilor Brady. Here. Councilor Coletta. Here. Councilor Fernandez-Sands.
Here.
Councilor Flaherty.
Councilor Flynn.
Here.
Councilor Lara.
Here.
Councilor Lujan.
Present.
Councilor Mejia.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
And Councilor Worrell. A quorum is present.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I've been informed by the clerk that a quorum is present. The introduction of today's clergy, this week, it's by Senior Pastor Willie Broderick from the 12th Baptist Church, Historic 12th Baptist Church, invited by City Council Arroyo. City Council Arroyo, would you like to come to the podium and introduce our clergy, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure today to introduce Reverend Willie Broderick II, who has been the senior pastor of 12th Baptist Church and is the president and CEO of the American City Coalition. Pastor Broderick brings extensive executive leadership and a personal and professional commitment to social and economic justice in the Roxbury community. To his role as president and CEO of TAC, which is the American City Coalition. His accomplishments span social and community development, healthcare, law, politics, and human development at the international level. Born and raised in Atlanta, Willie was inspired by the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the history of the civil rights movement. He is committed to continuing the legacy of creating a beloved community and balancing the scales of justice. Willie holds a BA from Georgetown University and a Master's in Divinity from Harvard Divinity School. In 2020, Willie graduated from Northeastern University School of Law, receiving a JD degree. In May 2022, Willie received an honorary doctorate of community service from Northeastern University. Pastor Broderick is a member of the Boston branch of the NAACP, Massachusetts Black Lawyers Association, chairman of the Roxbury YMCA board, and a proud member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Inc. Pastor Broderick is happily married to Dr. Devin Cromartie Broderick and is the delighted father of son Willie Broderick III, who is a gorgeous boy. He and his family reside in Roxbury. And on a personal note, Reverend Broderick II has been someone who I have turned to at moments where I want guidance or need someone to speak to on a spiritual level, and I'm treasured to have him in my life, treasured to have him as a friend. But I think the city of Boston, it speaks to the talent and the quality of the folks that come here and make this their home, that Reverend Willie Broderick has decided to stay here and make Boston a better place for everyone. So with that, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you to this council. Good afternoon. Let us go to God in prayer. Most gracious and wise God, we gather on this day thanking you for life, health, and strength. And God, we ask your blessing to be upon the women and men of this council who have been chosen to lead this city at this appointed time. God, as so much is happening in our city, we pray that the leadership that this council provides will continue to lift up each and every citizen of this city. And God, we pray that each and every member of this body acknowledges their great responsibility to serve each constituent and ensure equity for every community. God, I pray that you let this council close the opportunity gaps in our schools. God, I pray that you let the work of this council diminish health disparities. God, I pray that you allow this council to continue to advocate for families that are facing food and job and housing insecurity. God, I pray that you allow this council to address the violence and trauma and help to bring about healing. God, I pray that you let this council hear the cries of justice. And more importantly, God, I pray that you allow this council to bring about peace, not only here in these halls, but in our communities as well. So as this council leads in this important moment in our country, God, I pray that this council will have the wisdom and the courage to do that which is right and good. Lord, remind this council of the great responsibility to find common ground and to cooperate with one another, more importantly, so that each and every resident of the city of Boston can live fruitfully in the great prosperity of this city. So as this body deliberates on this day, let them do the business of this city. And I like them to be reminded of the great words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that say that the ultimate measure of a man or a woman is not where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he or she stands in times of challenge and controversy. God, our challenges are before us, but I pray that you, oh God, will give each and every one of these counselors the strength to be humble, the strength to be honorable, and the strength to be courageous. Thank you for this opportunity to share. And this we pray as they deliberate the business of this city, in the name of all that we hold sacred, whom I call Jesus Christ. Let every heart and mind say together, amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Broderick, and thank you for those inspiring words, but also thank you and your family for your incredible leadership in our city for many years. Mr. Clerk, please let the record be reflected that Councilor Flaherty and Councilor Worrell are present. Now we're on to the first order of business, the approval of the minutes. Seeing and hearing no discussion on the matter, the chair moves to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All of those in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. The minutes of the last meeting stand as approved. Communications from Her Honor the Mayor. Mr. Clerk, can you please read dockets 1409, 1410 together, please?
Docket number 1409, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $13,520,000 in the form of a grant for continued support of planning, exercises, trainings, and operational needs that will assist in building enhanced and sustainable security capacities to help prevent, respond to, and recover from threats to acts of terrorism, including chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive incidents, awarded by the United States Department of Homeland Security, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, to be administered by the Department of Emergency Management. The grant will fund the federal fiscal year 2022 Urban Areas Security Initiative. And docket number 1410, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,169,623 in the form of a grant for the Boston Providence Regional Catastrophic Preparedness Project, through which we work to close known capability gaps, encourage innovative regional solutions to issues related to catastrophic incidents, and build an existing regional preparedness efforts awarded by the United States Department of Homeland Security, passed through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to be administered by the Department of Homeland Security. The grant will fund the federal fiscal year 22 regional catastrophic preparedness.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Docket 1409 and 1410 will be referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1411, please?
Docket number 1411, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $360,000 in the form of a grant, 3 years of salary for the BTD staff position that is needed to implement transportation and infrastructure improvements associated with the BPTA plans awarded by the Boston Redevelopment Authority to be administered by the Transportation Department. The grant will fund the Boston Planning and Development Authority Memorandum of Agreement.
Thank you. Docket 1411 be referred to the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1412, please?
Docket number 1412, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $223,723.59 in the form of a grant for the Emergency Rental Assistance Grant awarded by the United States Department of the Treasury to be administered by the Mayor's Office of Housing. The grant will fund assistance to households that are unable to pay rent and utilities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a supplemental award from the United States Treasury's reallocated funds.
Thank you. The Chair recognizes Councilor Lara, Chair of the Committee on Housing and Community Development. Councilor Lara, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Flynn. In 2021, the City of Boston received a little bit over $50 million in ARPA funds for rental assistance for families who were struggling during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the U.S. Treasury Department goes through a process where it reallocates funds from other states, counties, or cities that were unspent. And so this is a part of the reallocation funds that the U.S. Treasury is sending to the City of Boston in the total of $223,723.79. This is less than 0.25% of all of the total money that we received from the U.S. Treasury Department, but it is going to have a significant impact on the amount of funds that the city has to be able to give to families who are struggling to pay their rent currently. And so my hope is that we can suspend and pass docket 1412 on the floor today.
Thank you, Councilor Lara. Councilor Lara seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1412. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Docket 1412 is passed. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1413, please?
Docket number 1413, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $150,000 in the form of a grant from the Waterfront Cultural Planning and Development Agency to be administered by the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. The grant will fund an analysis of existing, pending, and planned civic and cultural facilities in Boston waterfront neighborhoods.
Thank you. Docket 1413 will be referred to the Committee on Arts, Culture, and Special Events. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1414, please?
Docket number 1414, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $75,000 in the form of a grant for the Alston Public Realm Flexible Fund awarded by Harvard University, passed through the Boston Planning and Development Agency to be administered by the Public Works Department. The grant will fund a survey of a portion of the Western Avenue corridor in North Alston, North Brighton.
The Chair recognizes Councilor Bork, the Chair of the Committee on City Services, Innovation, Technology. Councilor Bork, you have the floor.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was rising to propose suspension and passage. I think Councilor Baker may have been rising to do the same, and I suppose that would depend on where this would be in theory going to committee, and I'm happy to defer whatever the...
Let me recognize Councilor Baker.
Sure.
Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
I rise to ask for permission to suspend and pass the docket 1414, small dollar amount. So we're running up to the end of the calendar year. Small dollars should be suspended and passed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Councilor Bork, did you want to add anything?
No, just to say
The Chair recognizes Councilor Bork.
and I believe that the district councilor whose district this is in confirmed that this is something they'd love to see hit the streets. So grateful to my colleagues' action, and I support it.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Bork and Councilor Baker have both recommended passage, seeking suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1414. All.
Point of information, it's my recommendation to make as the chair. It's not Council Block's recommendation.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You don't need to say anything.
Council Baker seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1414. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Docket 1414 has passed. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1415, 1416?
Docket number 1415, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $50,000 in the form of a grant for the Stewart Street mitigation awarded by the Boston Redevelopment Authority to be administered by the Police Department. The grant will fund the purchase and installation of safety cameras connected to the Boston Police System. Further to a vote by the Executive Committee of the Bay Village Neighborhood Association. Docket number 1416, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $13,656 in the form of a grant for the fiscal year 23 municipal road safety awarded by the United States Department of Transportation, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, to be administered by the Police Department. The grant will fund high-visibility traffic enforcement of motor vehicle laws, including but not limited to speeding and aggressive driving, distracted driving, impaired driving, and occupant protection.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The Chair recognizes Council Flaherty, the Chair of the Committee on Public Safety, Criminal Justice. Council Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. With respect to docket 1415, the $50,000 is part of a larger sum of community mitigation funds from the 212-222 Stewart Street development in the Bay Village Neighborhood Association, in the Bay Village neighborhood of Boston, and it's the Bay Village Neighborhood Association who had worked closely to identify the areas where the mitigation should go, specifically public safety initiative, open space improvements, and other initiatives. The $50,000 will go towards purchasing and installing safety cameras connected to the Boston Police System to improve public safety in the neighborhood, as mentioned, that will be approved by the Bay Village Neighborhood Association, and as the Chair, move for suspension and passage. And with respect to docket 1416, as referenced by the clerk, the grant will fund high visibility traffic enforcement and motor vehicle laws, including but not limited to speeding and aggressive driving, distracted driving, impaired driving, and occupant protection. This grant will protect residents of Boston from becoming victims of motor vehicle offenses and allow the BPD to further protect the general public on our streets. And as Chair, again, moving for suspension and passage of docket 1416. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Flaherty. Council Flaherty seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1415. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1415 is passed. Council Flaherty seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1416. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1416 has passed. Reports of public officers and others. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1417 and 1418 together?
Docket number 1417, Councilor Flynn offered the following. Communication was received from City Council President Flynn regarding updated City Council committee assignments. And docket number 1418, notice was received from the Mayor of the appointment of Jerica Bradley as temporary second assistant collector treasurer for a period of 60 days, effective November 25th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Docket 1417 and 1418 will be placed on file. Reports of committees. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 0185, please?
Docket number 0185, the Committee on Government Operations, to which was referred on January 26, 2022. Docket number 0185, petition for a special law relative to an act granting the City of Boston the authority to provide legal voting rights in municipal elections for the City of Boston residents aged 16 and 17 years old. Submits a report recommending that the home rule petition ought to pass in a new draft.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The Chair recognizes Councilor Arroyo, Chair of the Committee on Government Operations. Councilor Arroyo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. The Committee on Government Operations held a hearing on docket 0185 on March 15th, 2022, and working sessions on June 13th and November 17th of 2022. This home rule petition would authorize the City of Boston to allow any individual age 16 or 17 who is a resident of Boston to be able to vote, as long as they are eligible under state law for all other qualifications other than age. This home rule petition would place requirements on the Board of Election Commissioners, including the costs associated with implementation and rulemaking authority, to implement the provisions of this act. These individuals would be added to a list of voters established and maintained by the Board of Election Commissioners and would be allowed to vote for local offices and ballot questions in municipal elections. I would like to thank my council colleagues for sponsoring this matter, Councilors Mejia and Bach, as well as my council colleagues who joined us at these hearings, Council President Flynn, Councilors Lara, Murphy, and Flaherty. I'd also like to thank members of the administration, Anita Tavares, Commissioner of the Elections Department, and Sabino Piemonte, Head Registrar of Voters of the Elections Department. Based upon the information gathered at the hearings and working sessions, the committee made language amendments to make clear the intent of this docket's applicability on municipal elections and provides clarity for public records purposes while maintaining that voters' information is public. Passage of this home rule petition will further develop the interest in civic engagement, voting patterns, and importantly, increase accessibility to the ballot. This amended draft ensures that individuals registering for municipal elections will also be pre-registered for state and federal elections and will not need to register again in a separate step after they reach the age of 18. One second. Eliminating any confusion and any other barriers to voting accessibility. As chair of the Committee on Government Operations, I recommend that docket 0185 ought to pass in its amended new draft. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Arroyo. Council Arroyo seeks acceptance of the committee report. We'll take a brief recess. Recognizes Councilor Mejia.
Thank you, President Flynn. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Before I get started, I just want to acknowledge and thank Jacob de Blacourt, who is here today, my previous policy director, who was instrumental in helping us get here. So just wanted to acknowledge you, Jacob, for all your hard work and commitment to ensuring that we look at democracy in ways that really value all, and all means all. So thank you. I rise as before we take this vote to really help you all ground this decision on what possibilities are all about. We have a lot of young people who are working, oftentimes 2 jobs just to help support their families, paying taxes, and on the front lines protesting and trying to find ways to have their voices heard. And every day we make decisions on their behalves. And so for me, this particular home rule petition is really an opportunity for us as a city to create space for youth not to only be seen and heard, but to validate them through empowering them to vote and make decisions for themselves as to who should be representing them. And the notion that young people may not be mature enough to make decisions like this, just want to quickly acknowledge that, oftentimes it's young people who are educating their parents and their uncles and aunts and older folks about who's running for office and why they should vote. When we think about what restorative justice looks like, what better way to do that than to give young people an opportunity to decide for themselves who represents them. So I just want to thank all of my colleagues for your contributions in helping us get to this place. And I hope that you will consider allowing young people the right here in the city of Boston. And the last thing that I'll say, while I appreciate that we're going to send this over to the state, hopefully for approval, we know what happens at the State House. Most things go there to die. And I believe this is an opportunity for us to organize other municipalities across the state and create the groundswell support that this initiative deserves, and that is led by young people. So once it gets there, just let the State House know that we're coming for them too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. The chair recognizes Councilor Bach. Councilor Bach, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I want to thank my co-sponsor. thank you so much, Mr. President, and I want to thank my co-sponsor, Councilor Mejia, for sponsoring this with me. I used to teach civics when I was in college. I taught civics in the Boston Public Schools, mainly actually at the Jackson Man and at the Dearborn. And I think that for me, that was a very formative experience in seeing the way that young people can absolutely get super engaged in the issues of their community. Frankly, young people already are engaged in the issues of their community. Like, everybody lives that reality every day. And so, having the chance to start exercising those civic muscles early is really important. I think in many ways, the time when we give folks the vote in this country, 18, is almost about the worst moment to do it, because for many of our young people, 18 is the age at which you're uprooted. You might go to a different place to live, and so you don't have those like deep ties, you don't understand the context. You're showing up and moving in the same weekend maybe that the deadline is to register to vote. I think that if we give our young folks the chance to start forming that voting habit when they're 16, 17, when they're still rooted in the communities they've lived in their whole life, they're able to have these arguments in their high school hallways. I think that that's actually how you build that civic habit that really leads to lifelong civic engagement and lifelong super voters. And so, to me, as somebody who, since I was 12, has been knocking doors begging adults to vote in local races, and just like thinking about how much work we do every 2 years to try to get more people to weigh in on the city races, I think that if young people are willing to take this opportunity to actually come and vote in local elections, that's something that we should be cheering. I actually lived in the UK when the Scottish referendum happened, and they let 16 and 17-year-olds vote, and it was an amazing civic participation reality there. They saw really high turnout amongst young people, and they saw them kind of really engaging in the conversation in a new way because they knew they had a say. So to me, there isn't much more important for kind of small d democracy than getting people engaged for the long term over time. And I really think that we could really shift habit formation and the opportunity there if we moved that starting point from 18 to 16. And we should all admit an arbitrary voting line is always going to feel a little bit arbitrary. There's always, wherever you draw that line, there's going to be a kid 2 days older who is qualified and 1 2 days younger who isn't. We use 16 for lots of things in this country, and I think that when it comes to having a voice and being heard at the voting booth, that it makes good sense to start this a little bit earlier and really get that habit formed. So I'm going to be voting yes, and I'd urge colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Bach. The chair recognizes Councilor Braden. Councilor Braden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a really important issue. I think engaging with our young people at an early age and getting them civically involved is critically important to the future of our democracy. And this is an issue that's been a long time in the making. Like we allowed 18-year-olds by a federal, the 26th Amendment was formally ratified in 1971. Our former colleague, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, proposed lowering the federal voting age at the federal level in March of 2019. Our neighbouring municipalities of Somerville and Cambridge have also asked to reduce the voting age. So this is something that is a long time in the making. I think it's important, and now is the moment. The Boston Globe in March of 2020 said that in Massachusetts, letting 16 and 17-year-olds cast a ballot in local races would be a natural result of an enhanced civics education curriculum, which the state passed into law in 2018. The new law includes, among other things, first in the nation requirement for 8th graders and high school students to complete a non-partisan civics project on a local, state or federal policy issue. And I think that's my one concern about lowering the voting age was the whole issue about civics education, and I think it behooves us to really ensure that our young people are given a robust civics education in our schools. In 2020, the state lawmakers introduced the Empower Act, which would have granted a local option for municipal governments to lower the voting age without individually seeking home rule petitions. To speak to my colleague Councillor Mejia's concerns, home rule petitions very often go to the State House to die, so we hope that in this instance this would be an exception. This July, Senator Elizabeth Warren introduced the Youth Voting Rights Act, which would expand voter registration services to public colleges, universities, and require institutions of higher education to have on-campus polling places. I really want to commend my colleagues, Councillor Mejia and Councillor Bach, for this first filing this Home Rule petition back in March of 2021 and again this January. And I really look forward to voting to advance this petition requesting the legislature to grant Boston the authority to lower the local voting age. But I also want to look forward to working with the members of the Boston delegation to ensure that the Empower Act gets passed next session to allow local options for all municipalities across Massachusetts, so that we don't need to individually submit home rule petitions and home rule petitions every day, and that we would have a way that we could have some control over our own destiny at the local level. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brady. The chair recognizes Councillor Louis-Jean. Councillor Louis-Jean, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Flynn, and I also just want to thank Councillors Bach and Mejia for introducing this home rule petition at a time where around the country we've been making it a lot harder for folks to vote. We should really be taking the initiative to make it easier and expanding the franchise and really putting at the center young people whose lives are affected by the decisions that we make every day, and so they need to be engaged. I just think about if I had the opportunity to vote when I was 16, when I was in a history class, when I was working at my local community organization, if that was a way that I was able to show up, that would have been really powerful to really help connect dots and really think about what it means to be an active participant. And, of course, voting is not the only way, but it's an important way. And also, it's also important to know that, there are other places around the country where this is working. In Maryland, in California, Hyattsville, Tacoma Park, and also around the world. So it's really, it's great that we're putting this forward, but it's not like a novel, it's not like we're the first to do this. And we had experts, I think, at the first working session from Scotland who talked about how that really helps to peak engagement. I know that it's happened in Argentina, Brazil, other places around the world. And it's time for us to join the ranks of these countries that have really respected our young people and putting them in the driver's seat and being able to vote. So thank you for introducing this. And I hope that to support the work of making sure the Boston delegation supports it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Louis-Jean. Anyone else looking to speak? Councillor Arroyo seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0184 in a new draft. All those in favor say aye. Aye. 0185. Let me do that again. Councillor Arroyo seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0185 in a new draft. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Nay. Doubt the vote. Mr. Clerk, can you please do a roll call vote?
Roll call vote on docket number 0185. Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Nay.
Councilor Baker, nay. Councilor Bach.
Aye.
Councilor Bach, aye. Councilor Braden.
Aye.
Councilor Braden, aye. Councilor Coletta.
Yes.
Councilor Coletta, yes. Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilor Fernandez Anderson, yes. Councilor Flaherty. No. Councilor Flaherty, no. Councilor Flynn.
No.
Councilor Flynn, no. Councilor Lara.
Yes.
Councilor Lara, yes. Councilor Louis-Jean.
Yes.
Councilor Louis-Jean, yes. Councilor Mejia.
C.
Councilor Mejia, C. Councilor Murphy.
No.
Councilor Murphy, no. Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Worrell, yes. Docket number 0185 has received 9 votes in the affirmative and 4 in the negative.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 0799 and 1246 together, please?
Docket number 0799, the Committee on Arts, Culture, and Special Events, to which was referred on June 29, 2022. Docket number 0977, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $300,000 in the form of a grant for the Boston Red Sox Arts Fund, awarded by the Boston Red Sox to be administered by the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. The grant will fund programs supported by the Boston Cultural Council, which, with a portion directed specifically to Fenway area groups or artists, submits a report recommending that the docket ought to pass. In docket number 1246, the Committee on Arts, Culture, and Special Events, to which was referred on October 19, 2022, docket number 1246. Message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant from the Boston Planning and Development Agency in the amount not to exceed $4,601,589,000. which will be allocated to the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture for its work on public arts and cultural efforts. Submits a report recommending that the docket ought to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The Chair recognizes Councilor Coletta, the Chair of the Committee on Arts and Culture, Special Events. Councilor Coletta, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. The Committee on Arts, Culture, and Special Events held a public hearing on November 15th, 2022 in the Ionella Chamber on both of these dockets. Councilors present included myself, Council President Ed Flynn, Vice Chair Councilor Lara, Councilor Kenzie Bach, Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson, and Councilor Aaron Murphy. And from the administration, Kara Elliott Ortega, who is Chief of Arts and Culture from the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, made a presentation on the particulars of this grant and responded to many questions from the councilors. She remarked that it was almost like a working session, and I thought it was a great, robust conversation. The presentation included the specific use of these funds and the various other related components, the background, history, jurisdiction, and processes of outreach, applications, selections, allocations, and management by the Boston Cultural Council and the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. The office is actively engaged in continuous efforts to facilitate and promote the access, participation, and inclusion of historically underserved neighborhoods and communities. And specifically on these dockets, the $300,000 is for the Boston Red Sox Arts Fund, awarded by the Red Sox, which will fund programs supported by the Boston Cultural Council, with a portion directly directed specifically to Fenway area groups and artists. These grants are small, but the office is open to future review of the BCC's policy to consider an increase in the amount of the subgrants to groups and artists. And then specifically for docket 1246, which is the $4.6 million. It's from the BPDA, allocated to the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture for its work on public arts and culture efforts. The sources of these funds include the Hub on Causeway, the Government Center Garage, and the use of these funds include high-quality public art and placemaking and seed funding for City Hall Plaza programming, and a lot of our conversation had to do with that. But in general, we got a commitment from the Arts and Culture Office to be collecting all pertinent data related to these funds. There will be a city position to work on the programming that will have the hands-on coordination, or will have hands-on coordination of these efforts in making of events, activities, and programs that will happen on the plaza. And then part of the job description in the city position, which we were promised, includes issuing an annual report evaluating all events, activities, and programs, and sharing all the data and statistics with the community and the Boston City Council. So because of this, and based on the testimony and information presented, I respectfully recommend that both of these matters ought to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Coletta. Councilor Coletta seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0799. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Docket 0799 has passed. Councilor Coletta seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1246. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Docket 1246 has passed. Mr. Clerk, please read dockets 0931, 1134 to 1140 and 1343 together.
Docket number 0931, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on August 10th, 2022. Docket number 0931. Message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $2,299,117.68 in the form of a grant for the fiscal year 23 State Elder Lunch Program, awarded by the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the Age Strong Commission. The grant will fund nutrition services for older adults in the City of Boston at the rate of $7.39 per meal for up to 311,112 meals. Submits a report that the order ought to pass. Docket number 1134, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on September 21st, 2022. Docket number 1134, message in order for order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,969,000 $1,066 in the form of a grant for the federal fiscal year 23 Title III-C Nutrition Services Program, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. The grant will fund nutrition services for older adults in the city of Boston. These services are enhanced by the Federal Nutrition Services Incentive Program and the State Elder Lunch Program grants. Submits a report recommending that the order ought to pass. Docket number 1135, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on September 21st, 2022. Docket number 1135, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,600,875 in the form of a grant for fiscal year 23, Title 3B Supportive Services, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. The grant will fund home-based support services for older adults in the city of Boston. Submits a report recommending the order ought to pass. Docket number 1136, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on September 21st, 2022. Docket number 1136, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $987,452.44 in the form of a grant from the Federal Fiscal Year 22 Nutrition Services Incentive Program, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. Submits a report recommending that the order ought to pass. Docket number 1137, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, which was referred on September 21st, 2022. Docket number 1137, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $524,287 in the form of a grant for the Federal Fiscal Year 23 Title III-E Family Caregiver Support Program, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. The grant will fund caregiver services for older adults in the city of Boston. Submits a report recommending the order ought to pass. Docket number 1138, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on September 21st, 2022. Docket number 1138, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $424,821 in the form of a grant for the Federal Fiscal Year 23 Title III-A, supported by the United States Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. The grant will fund costs for administration of Title III programs. Submits a report recommending that the order ought to pass. Docket number 1139, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on September 21st, 2022. Docket number 1139, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $177,271 in the form of a grant for the Federal Fiscal Year 23 Title III Ombudsman Program, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. The grant will fund consumer protection programs to improve long-term services for older adults in the city of Boston. Submits a report recommending that the order ought to pass. Docket number 1140, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on September 21st, 2022. Docket number 1140, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $78,695 in the form of a grant for the Federal Fiscal Year 23 Title III-D Disease Prevention and Health Promotion, awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, passed through the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs, to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. The grant will fund services that assist older adults in Boston to prevent illness and manage chronic conditions. submits a report recommending the order ought to pass. In docket number 1343, the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, to which was referred on November 2nd, 2022, docket number 1343. Message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,403,856 in the form of a grant for the state fiscal year 23 Council on Aging formula allocation awarded by the Mass Executive Office of Elder Affairs to be administered by the Age Strong Commission. The grant will fund services for 116,988 older adults in the City of Boston at $12 per person, according to 2020 census data from UMass Boston Donahue Institute. Submits a report recommending the order ought to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The chair recognizes Councilor Braden, Chair of the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities. Councilor Braden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Clerk. That was a marathon read. Dockets number 0931, docket 1134 to 1140, and docket 1343 are 9 orders authorizing the City to accept and expend grants awarded by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Massachusetts Executive Office of Elder Affairs to be administered by our Age Strong Commission. The 9 dockets were referred to the Committee on Strong Women, Families and Communities on August 10th, September 21st and November 2nd, and authorised the expenditure of $9,871,441.12 to grant in grant funds for various programmes and staff to support programmes for the Age Strong Commission. At the Chair's request, the administration submitted a memorandum on November 22nd, prepared by the Age Strong Commission, Emily Shea, and Deputy Commissioner of Finance, Francis Thomas Jr., providing a summary information of these grants. The committee report you have at your desk, it details the details of the grants and the specific agencies that the grants will support. The committee report included in today's packet also details a memo including a list of all the partners. In summary, the grants will support the Commission's nutrition programme, which include congregate and home-delivered meals, support services for older adults in the City of Boston, providing funding to partner agencies for caregiver services, support the administration of Title III programmes for older adults in Boston, support a partner organisation to provide ombudsman services in long-term care facilities such as nursing homes, assisted living facilities and rest homes, fund partner organisations to provide services that assist older adults in the City of Boston to prevent illness and manage chronic conditions, and to fund Commission staff to help older adults connect to services and benefits, support older volunteers, and engage older residents in programming. All recipients must maintain detailed reports. Most of the Age Strong Commission grants are formula, not competitive, so no formal applications are required. Passage of these grants will allow for the continuation of these programmes, services and resources, as well as supporting staff. And as the Chair of the Committee of Strong Women, Families and Communities, it is my recommendation that dockets number 1931, 1134 to 1140 and 1343 ought to pass. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. We'll do each one individually. Councilor Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0931. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 0931 has passed. Councilor Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1134. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1134 has passed. Councilor Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1135. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1135 has passed. Councilor Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report, passage of docket 1136. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1136 has passed. Councilor Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1137. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1137 has passed. Council Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1138. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1138 has passed. Council Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1139. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1139 has passed. Council Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1140. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1140 was passed, and Council Braden seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1343. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1343 has passed. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 1247 and 1248 together, please.
Docket number 1247, the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice, to which was referred on October 19, 2022. Docket number 1247, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $441,825 in the form of a grant for the fiscal year 22 Burn Justice Assistance Grant local allocation awarded by the United States Department of Justice to be administered by the Police Department. The grant will fund domestic violence management analyst at the Family Justice Center, a hub and center of responsibility coordinator, and a technology coordinator for multiple data collection, reporting, and records management systems. Submits a report recommending that the order ought to pass. And docket number 1248, the Committee on Public Safety and Criminal Justice, to which was referred on October 19, 2022, docket number 1248, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $315,365 in the form of a grant for the fiscal year 2022 DNA Capacity Enhancement and Backlog Reduction Program awarded by the United States Department of Justice to be administered by the Police Department. The grant will fund 2 criminalist positions, lab supplies, equipment, and continuing education expenses. Submits a report recommending that the order ought to pass.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The chair recognizes Councilor Flaherty, the chair of the Committee on Public Safety, Criminal Justice. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for passage of docket 1247. This grant will fund a domestic violence management analyst at the Family Justice Center and also a hub and center of core responsibility coordinator and a technology coordinator for multiple data collection, reporting, and records management. Funding is critical, particularly for intervention services based on key risk factors. These services will provide resources and support those in need through the hiring of personnel, community policing related to technology, violence, domestic violence, and intervention programs. The funds are used for the following 3 full-time critical civilian positions: the Domestic Violence Management Analyst, known as the DVM, the Technology Initiative Coordinator, and the Hub and Core Coordinator. The Hub and Core Coordinator works with families and individuals that are facing complex challenges and may need services from more than one community agency. As it pertains to docket 1248, as chair moving for passage, this grant will fund 2 criminalist positions, lab supplies, equipment, and continuing education expenses. This grant will fund personnel costs for salary and overtime for criminalist positions, as well as for travel and training expenses. This grant will allow for the continuing education of criminologists in order for the lab to maintain accreditation, and will allow the purchase of necessary supplies and equipment. The purchase of testing supplies will allow for the maximum productivity and will result in the reduction of caseload backlog. Again, as chair, requesting passage of docket 1247 and 1248. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flaherty seeks acceptance of the committee report, passage of docket 1247. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1247 has passed. Councilor Flaherty seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1248. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Docket 1248 is passed. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1386?
Docket number 1386, the Committee on Ways and Means, to which was referred on November 2nd, 2022. Docket number 1386, order relative to the adoption of classification in the City of Boston for fiscal year 2023. Submits a report recommending that the order ought to pass.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Fernandez Anderson, the chair of the Committee on Ways and Means. Councilor Fernandez Anderson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Ways and Means held a hearing on docket 1386 Wednesday, November 16th. We were joined by Nicholas Sarinello, Commissioner, Assessing Department, who testified on behalf of administration, as well as City Council to adopt classification declare residential exemption in the city, Boston, fiscal year FY 2023. Pursuant to state law, the City Council must annually determine the percentages of the tax levy to be borne by each class property. Docket 1386 will implement the minimum residential factor as calculated by the Department of Revenue. The city has consistently adopted the minimum residential factor as determined by the Commissioner of Revenue, which shifts the burden of the tax levy from residential to business properties, creating significant savings for residential property owners. Passage of this docket will save homeowners approximately 24% off of their bills due to this tax shift. And just basically adopting the minimum residential factor of the maximum residential exemption helps offset these increases for residential homeowners. At this time, it is my recommendation to the council that this matter ought to pass. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez Anderson. Councilor Fernandez Anderson seeks acceptance of the committee report, passage of docket 1386. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Docket 1386 has passed. Matters recently heard for possible action. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1352?
Docket number 1352, order for a hearing regarding diversion services for trash at large Boston venues.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Bach, the chair of the Committee on City Services, Innovation Technology. Councilor Bach, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. We had a great hearing on Monday morning. It was a matter sponsored by Councilor Flaherty in the City Services and Innovation Technology Committee, focused on trash and particularly recycling and recycling diversion rates at our large venues and for big events in the city. I was joined by both the sponsor, Councilor Flaherty, and then Councilors Aaron Murphy at large, Councilor Braden, and yourself, the council president. We had Susan Casino, the recycling director from the city, and Josh Altador, the general superintendent of maintenance from Parks, talking about kind of some of what we do on the city side and with parks, the big events that get permitted in parks. But the main meat of our conversation was really with some of the large venue providers. So we had folks from the Mass Convention Center Authority, the TD Garden, Fenway Park, and the folks at BC who are in charge of the athletic events and tailgates all come. I think we learned a lot. One of the things we learned is that nobody's really solved this yet. Our big venues are still not diverting nearly as much of their recycling as we would like to see. The rates ranged from about 50% at the convention center, which has a lot of space for sort of sorting and after activities, to 25% at Fenway and just 16% at the Garden. So it really, feels like they're, and then 37 to 9% at BC's tailgates, which is pretty close to the campus's overall 41. So really a spread there. Some of the things that the committee talked about were both like ways that each of these venues could just try to, whether it's implement new technology, have different processes, try to modify fan attendee behavior to get those sorting rates up. We also talked about controlling inputs, something that other convention centers, particularly on the West Coast, have done, but that it sounds like we really haven't done here in Boston yet, is to say, hey, everything that we're going to sell in this venue should just be like recyclable, easily manageable containers. And we also talked a bit with the folks at the Garden about the fact that figuring out how to shift to easily compostable containers on the food side would also make a huge difference. So it was a really informative hearing. I would say it left lots of questions on the table. We had our former council colleague, now state rep, Rob Consalvo, came in and gave some testimony, and a constituent of his who has a kind of piece of technology to help with sorting also offered public testimony. So I thought it was a good kind of problem-solving focused conversation, but it definitely underscored the fact that commercial recycling and commercial composting is just a huge issue when we talk about becoming a zero-waste city. And really, like, we have to start with these big actors, have to figure out how to solve it, because they're the ones who actually have scale. And for us to reach our zero waste goals on the city side, it's not going to be enough for the city of Boston to do what we do in our kind of ring-fenced area. Like, we really need our commercial side to be leading with zero waste solutions. And so I really commend the sponsor, Councilor Flaherty, for bringing this up. And if you would allow, Mr. President, I think it would be great if he could just give a few comments as well.
Thank you, Council Bach. The chair recognizes Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank the previous speaker for hosting, and hopefully will be a series of further conversations, because the bottom line is too much material that could be recycled continues to end up in our landfills. And we had a consortium of folks representing our colleges and universities and our larger venues, from Fenway Park to TD Bank Garden to the convention center. And so, the positive part of that was that there was a spirit of collaboration among all of them, looking towards identifying best practices. As referenced, G-Force Waste Sorters was here to identify a possible solution to achieve that goal. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we don't lose our focus. We've been focused most recently on energy sources, and we must not lose sight of our waste sources as well. So current waste stream from large venues simply gets disposed at landfills and/or incinerators. And so we can and must do better. And what we heard from folks in the room was they're willing to partner with the city. They're willing to work together collectively to identify those best practices. And we all have shared common goals in terms of reducing the waste streams and making sure that we're conserving as much space as we can within our landfill. So look forward to further discussion. And again, through the chair, thank the chair of the committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? Or not yet. Docket 1352 will remain in committee. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1344?
Docket number 1344, message and order authorizing the City of Boston for an appropriation in the amount of $1,515,000 for the purpose of paying costs of a feasibility study and schematic design work associated with roof, boiler, window, and door replacement projects at the following schools: the Jeremiah E. Burke High School, English High School, the Dr. William Henderson Upper School, the Dennis C. Haley Elementary School, and the Curley K-8 School.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Fernandez Anderson, the chair of the Committee on Ways and Means. Councilor Fernandez Anderson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We held a hearing on this matter on Monday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Panelists included Mark Keys, Mecca, Assistant Director of Construction, and Brian McLaughlin, Project Manager, both from Public Facilities Department. From BPS, we were joined by Sam DePina, Deputy Superintendent of Operations, and Indira Alvarez, Chief of Operations, and Kayla Jackson, Director of Capital Planning. In attendance also, we had Councilor Worrell, Councilor Lujan, Councilor Murphy, and Councilor Braden. We offered pertinent questions and comments throughout, based on a testimony presented and the conditions of schools under discussion. As Chair of Ways and Means, I recommend moving forward with this feasibility study and schematic design work. If approved, this study and design work will begin in the winter of 2023. BPS and PFD are anticipating construction to begin during the summer of 2024. The approval of this appropriation requires 2 votes of the City Council. So it is at this time that I recommend to the Council the matter ought to be read for the first time and assigned for further action. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez Anderson. Councilor Fernandez Anderson seeks acceptance of the committee report in a first reading of docket 1344. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Roll call on docket 1344. Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Aye.
Councilor Baker, aye. Councilor Bach.
Aye.
Councilor Bach, aye. Councilor Braden.
Aye.
Councilor Braden, aye. Councilor Coletta.
Yes.
Councilor Coletta, yes. Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. And Councilor Fernandez Anderson, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Lara.
Yes.
Councilor Lara, yes. Councilor Lujan.
Yes.
Councilor Lujan, yes. Councilor Mejia. Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy, yes. And Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Worrell, yes. Docket number 1344 has received its first reading and received a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The docket has received its first reading and will be assigned for further action. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0965.
Docket number 0965, order for a hearing on increasing green stormwater infrastructure capacity at the Boston Water and Sewer and the City of Boston.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Bach, the chair of the Committee on City Services, Innovation Technology. Councilor Bach, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it was a pleasure yesterday to co-chair this with Councilor Lara and of the Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks Committee. This was a really exciting discussion about green stormwater infrastructure. We were joined by the Mayor's new Director of Green Infrastructure, Kate England, by Christian Simonelli of the Boston Groundwater Trust, and John Sullivan, our Chief Engineer at Boston Water and Sewer Commission. Also Henry Vitale, the chair, was here as well, and Nayeli Rodriguez representing MONEM. So we had a great team of city staff talking about a really intersectional issue between all of our departments about how we handle the the increased flooding, both localized because of increased rain, coastal because of sea level rise for the city of Boston, and really thinking about how we shift from just thinking about a gray stormwater infrastructure approach, which is making sure that our pipes can handle capacity and that we've got infiltration chambers and such, to really doing more of this green infrastructure work, both in the public way and the 6.5 square miles of collective kind of streets and sidewalks that the City of Boston Public Works Department owns, and in terms of what, through our rules and regulations, we're pushing private folks to do on their land. So, we talked a lot about the benefits. We talked about a ton of things that the city is implementing, and the kind of continued need for the Water and Sewer Commission and the city departments to work really closely together on this, because it's one of those things that we need a kind of all hands on deck approach to. So really excited to hold that yesterday. We had, in addition to myself and Councilor Lara, we were joined by yourself, Mr. President, by Councilor Liz Braden, one of the co-sponsors with me, and Councilor Gabriela Coletta, also a co-sponsor, along with Councilor Ruthie Louis-Jen. I thought it was a really detailed, in-depth conversation, more points than I can quickly summarize, but if you're interested in the topic, I encourage everybody to go look at the tape. We were here for a couple of hours and had a really detailed conversation. So I would defer to my co-chair, Mr. President, if she wanted to make any statement and just say, obviously, keep it in committee, and we're going to be keeping
Thank you, Councilor Bach. The chair recognizes the co-chair, Councilor Lara. Councilor Lara, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Flynn, and thank you to my co-chair and all of the co-sponsors for bringing this issue to the forefront. I think I would just like to echo everything that Councilor Bach shared in terms of the depth of the conversation, and I want to reiterate the implications of really managing our storm water well. As a city that is on the water, it's going to be imperative if we want to make sure that we are keeping our most vulnerable communities really resilient when it comes to climate change. It's going to require that we build this infrastructure and be responsive, not only to the localized flooding, but also to the coastal flooding that we're going to be seeing in the city. So I'm excited to continue the conversation and make sure that we're using as many tools as possible to really harness the power of the resource that is stormwater in the city of Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lara. Docket 0965 will remain in committee. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0617 and 0724, please.
Docket number 0617, order for a hearing on government transparency and accountability towards service provision and spending on ELL students. And docket number 0724, order for a hearing on an audit for Boston Public Schools Special Education Services and return on investment.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The chair recognizes Councilor Mejia, the chair of the Committee on Government, Accountability, Transparency, Accessibility. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for allowing me to create a committee on government accountability, transparency, and accessibility. Really do appreciate your support in that. I won't take up too much time other than to say that these matters were sponsored by myself, alongside Councilor Lara and Councilor Tanya Anderson, and we were joined for the hearing with Councilor Coletta, Flynn, Murphy, and Lara, Louis-Jean, and Breeden. So I just want to thank my colleagues for showing up and being part of the conversation. Testimonies were taken by the administration officials, including the following speakers on docket 0617 and 0724. Farah Azajiri, who is the Deputy Chief Academic Officer, Interim Assistant Superintendent of the Office of English Language Learners, Office of Multilingual and Multicultural Education, which is a lot of titles for one person to hold, but she's holding it down. We also were joined by Linda Chen, who is the new Senior Deputy Superintendent of Academics, as well as David Bloom, the Chief Financial Officer, Lauren Vivian, who is the Interim Assistant Superintendent of Office of Special Education, Suzanne Lee, BPS Immigration and Community Leader, as well as John Mudd, Suhey Scannell, who's a parent advocate, Elsa Flores, Diana Santiago, Jakira Rogers, Cheryl Buckman, Roxy Harvey, Edith Bazil, Fabian Ixlin, who is also a BPS parent. It was clear from yesterday's hearing that BPS, I wouldn't say lack, but still needs to meet the moment in regards to services and access for ELs and students with disabilities in their own native language. BPS also needs to make access to native language a priority, and those needs need to be reflected in the budget and funding priorities. And there needs to be accountability mechanisms put in place to ensure that they are following through. And one of the things that I know we wanted to highlight in this space is that oftentimes, you know, we come into this chamber with aspirational and vision of what we hope for, and I think that we are moving into a space now that we're going to come with outcomes and goals and objectives and benchmarks that we can hold ourselves accountable to. And this work can't just be about BPS. It is clear that we as a council need to lean in a little bit further to support our schools, to support our students, and I am looking forward to keeping this in committee and working alongside the administration, Boston Public Schools, and our colleagues, our community activists, parents, and staff to really address these issues. We have over 15,000 people who have left Boston Public Schools, as you saw in the recent Boston Globe report, and we can't continue to lose our students due to our own inability to meet the moment. So looking forward to keeping this in committee and doing the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Docket 0617 and docket 0724 will remain in committee. We're on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1419, please?
Docket number 1419, Councilor Mejia offered the following. Order for a hearing examining the City of Boston's procurement practices and procedures.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Mejia. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make note that Councilor Roel and I partnered up earlier this year to file a hearing order on some of the barriers to small businesses, and this is slightly somewhat different because this is really looking at the procurement process here and the practices that we have in City Hall. So in 2020, you know, the city published a disparity study which indicated a disproportionately underutilized of minority and women-owned businesses. And in response to the disparity study results in February 2021, the mayor created an executive order committing to the utilization goal of at least 25% of contracting with minority and women-owned businesses across all contracts awarded in any fiscal year. What we know is that there are a lot of barriers that exist when folks are trying to set up vendors here in the city of Boston, just the protocols, the paperwork, the bureaucracy that goes through to just get to become a vendor, and then you never know if you're going to be awarded a contract is cumbersome for a lot of folks. And I think we have an opportunity to really lean into this conversation and look at how we can not so much remove the red tape, but at least make it a little bit like pink, because there is just a lot of barriers for folks who are trying to do business here in the city. And I just want to acknowledge that Luz Perez, who's our new chief of staff, came from this department, and so I'm really happy that under her leadership, we're going to be able to shepherd this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Mejia. Is anyone else looking to speak on this matter? Would anyone like to add their name? Please raise your hand. Mr. Clerk, please add Councilor Arroyo, Councilor Bach, Councilor Braden, Councilor Coletta, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Lara, Councilor Louis-Jean, Councilor Murphy, Councilor Worrell, and please add the chair. Docket 1419 will be referred to the Committee on Government Accountability, Transparency, Accessibility. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 1420 and 1421, please.
Docket number 1420, Councilor Murphy offered the following. Order requesting certain information under 17F regarding Boston Public Schools. And docket number 1421, Councilor Murphy offered the following. Order requesting certain information under 17F regarding Boston Public School buses.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Murphy. Councilor Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you, President. I filed these 17Fs for several reasons. The first was, as we all know, last May, the Department of Secondary Education released a report on BPS, and their findings found deficiencies within our school system. District leaders, in this DESE report, it said district leaders have not prioritized 2 BPS functions in crisis. Special education and transportation were identified as critical BPS priorities in the BPS DESE memorandum, yet these functions have stagnated and, in some cases, further deteriorated since 2020. The deficiencies in these areas disproportionately affect many of BPS' most vulnerable students, and the district lacks the requisite staff capacity for improvements. Regarding special education, the department found that BPS has shown a lack of urgency in improving special education services. 20% of district students are receiving special ed services, yet these services remain in disarray, and the districts lack well understood special education policies and procedures, as well as appropriate plans for educating students in the least restrictive environment. The disproportionate placement of Black and brown students in substantially separate settings is of particular concern. Regarding transportation, the department found that transportation services, driven by substantial challenges with the district's transportation contract, which we know is getting fixed as we speak, are significantly and inequitably affecting student learning. On-time bus arrival rates remain unacceptably low, and uncovered routes can affect thousands of students each month. We had a hearing on the transportation just a few weeks ago and found out that they are not meeting the mark that DESE had set for them. Many students whose morning bus routes are uncovered simply do not attend school that day, and students with disabilities are disproportionately affected. Secondly, BPS commissioned the review as part of the state-mandated district improvement plan to address wide-ranging problems with operations, management, and instruction. Reviewing special ed and BPS is somewhat familiar territory for this council of the great city schools, which conducted a similar evaluation for BPS in 2009. That evaluation found many of the same problems. Problems with special ed go well beyond the lack of inclusive classrooms and include long delays in evaluating students for services and a high concentration of students with disability in low-performing schools, according to the report. If a student started kindergarten in BPS in 2009, that means they graduated this past year. And if nothing has changed to make our special education delivery service for our students better, that means a student had spent their entire time in BPS with subpar services for their special needs. I talked to Jerry Robinson, the president of the school committee, just last week after they had reviewed this report at their school committee hearing. She did recommend, she thinks everyone should watch that school committee hearing. She said she was in tears and sick over it. Thirdly, I spoke to one of the COAS, which is the coordinator of special ed. Each school has one, or a COAS will share schools if they're small. She said at her school alone, she had 60 IEPs, 60, out of compliance. That is just at one school, and we have 125 schools. And lastly, we have had several hearings with BPS this year. Many times they have brought people who couldn't answer our questions or didn't come with proper information to have an effective hearing. Many of my questions that I had formally submitted through the committee have not been answered yet. So to be more transparent, and I believe to build more trust between us as a council and the school, which we know needs our support, but at the same time we need them to work with us, I am filing these two 17Fs. These are questions I had asked starting back at the budget when there were transportation questions, and have brought these up at more than one hearing. So hoping that within the next few days I'll receive this information, and we as a council can use that information to go forward and help our students who deserve a better education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Murphy. Council Murphy seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1420. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk, can we doubt the vote, please? Can we do a roll call vote?
Docket number 1420, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Aye.
Councilor Baker, aye. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Coletta.
Yes.
Councilor Coletta, yes. Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilor Fernandez Anderson, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Lara. Councilor Lara, no. Councilor Lujan.
Yes.
Councilor Lujan, yes. Councilor Mejia.
No.
Councilor Mejia, no. Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy, yes. Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Worrell, yes. 11 votes in the affirmative, 2 in the negative.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Bach. Councilor Bach.
Sorry, Mr. President, this is a point of inquiry. Is it the case that because you need suspension and passage to move something on the first instance, that it would get remanded to committee because it didn't have unanimous consent? I just don't remember, honestly, if that applies to 17Fs.
Yes, 17Fs don't get referred to committees.
Well, they don't usually get referred to committees because we usually pass them through on the first instance.
Right.
But what's the S&P rule?
We're in a brief recess. We're back on the record. We are discussing docket 1420. Listening and talking to the clerk and central staff, this opposition has never happened, but before, it's unprecedented, at the advice and recommendation of the city clerk and, our legal team. This docket will be placed in the committee of the whole because it didn't have unanimous consent. We're going on to docket. I know. Yeah. Docket 1420 will be referred to the committee of the whole.
Then they proceed with the regular things.
Councilor Murphy seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1421. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Mr. Clerk, because it was not unanimous, docket 1421 will be referred to the committee of the whole, which I chair. We're on to personnel orders. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 14. Hold on for 1 second, please. Mr. Clerk, we're going to read docket 1422. Could you read that into the record? And then I want to give Councilor Coletta a brief opportunity to speak on it, please.
Docket number 1422, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Coletta. It's the next one.
Okay. Can we take docket 1423 out of order, please? Okay. Councilor Coletta seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1422. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, can you read docket 1423?
Docket number 1423, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Coletta.
The chair recognizes Councilor Coletta. Councilor Coletta, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President Flynn, for allowing me the opportunity to get up and say something right now. And I would be remiss if I did not get up and say something in this moment. So we as a body often talk about fostering and welcoming an inclusive environment for everybody. This includes our siblings in the LGBTQ community. We are an institution established in the early years of the city, and while we've progressed in some areas, we have not in others, and we still have some work to do. Right now, as it currently stands, the city does not provide a dignified process for trans and non-binary city workers to be recognized as they wish. A member of my staff deserves to have their chosen identity respected, especially as it relates to formal procedures through this body, like personnel orders. This is just a simple agenda item for us, but it's a lack of respect and a refusal to acknowledge the existence of this community. A legal name should not be a prison in this city, and if you want to work in this city. I intend to work with my staff and my new staffer, HR and the LGBTQ Advancement Office, and my colleagues to make this a truly safe and inclusive place to work for all through different policy changes in the coming year, and I welcome everybody to join me in that work. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak, Council President Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Coletta. The chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1423. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The docket is passed. Yeah. And Councilor Coletta, please know that myself and the council members will work with you on this and would love to provide strong leadership in how we can be helpful to your team, but also to new employees as well.
Thank you.
Next, I'm not going to read the docket number, I'm just
Yep.
going to say next because there's so many.
Docket number 1424, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Baker.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1424. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed.
Docket number 1425, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Baker.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1425. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1426, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Arroyo.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1426. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, please. Next.
Docket number 1427, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Flaherty.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1427. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1428, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Flaherty.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1428. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1429, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Bach.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1429. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1430, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Bach.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1430. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1431, Councilor Flynn offers the
Chair
following.
seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1431. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1432, Councilor Flynn offered the following.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules, passage of docket 1432. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1433, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Worrell.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1433. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1434, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Coletta.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1434. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1435, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Coletta.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1435. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1436, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1436. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1437, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Louisiana.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1437. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1438, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Louisiana.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1438. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1439, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1439. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1440, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1440. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1441, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Brady.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1441. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Next.
Docket number 1442, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Brady.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 1442. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, we're on to late files.
There was 6 personnel.
Yeah. I am informed by the clerk that there are 6 additional late file matters. The additional late file matters include 6 personnel orders. The late file matters should now be on everyone's desk. We will take a vote to add these items into the agenda. All those in favor of adding the late file matters into the agenda say aye. We're in brief recess. We're back on the record. We will take a vote now to add these late files into the agenda. All those in favor of adding the late file matters into the agenda, say aye. Aye. Thank you. The late file matters have now been added to the agenda. Mr. Clerk, can you please read the first late file matter into the agenda?
First late file matter, personnel order filed by Councilor Flynn regarding central staff.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the first late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. The second late file, Mr. Clerk.
Second late file personnel order filed by Councilor Flynn regarding central staff.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the second late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, the third late file matter, please.
Personnel order, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Mejia.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the third late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, the fourth late file matter, please.
Personnel order filed by Councilor Flynn for Councilor Mejia.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the fourth late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, the fifth late file matter, please.
Personnel order filed by Councilor Flynn for Councilor Murphy.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of the fifth late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, the next late file matter.
Personnel order filed by Councilor Flynn for Councilor Murphy.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of this late file matter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. We're on to green sheets. Anyone wishing to remove a matter from the green sheet may do so at this time. I wasn't sure. Okay. The chair recognizes Councilor Arroyo. Councilor Arroyo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we can remove docket 1324 from the green sheets, it's a petition for special law regarding an act directing the City of Boston Police Department to waive the maximum age requirement for the police department. It's page 9 of 21.
Page 9.
Page 9 of 21 on the green sheets.
Mr.
Docket
Clerk.
1324. Originally filed by Councilor Baker.
$13.24.
Do you have that? Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you please read that docket into the record at this time?
From the Committee on Government Operations, docket number 1324, petition for a special law relative to an act directing the City of Boston Police Department to waive the minimum age requirement for police officers for Juan Pierre Luis.
Mr. Clerk, would we poll the committee at this time?
Yep. Committee on Government Operations, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Louisian. Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
And Councilor Coletta.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay. This docket is now properly before the body. Councilor Arroyo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are standard. I've done at least one, possibly two of these in my tenure here. I know Councilor Baker has also done them. There's a maximum age requirement for the Boston Police Department Academy. The passage of this does not guarantee anyone a position or entry. It simply waives their age requirement. And in this particular case, this is a relatively standard home rule petition, and so I'm seeking passage of this. Councilor Baker may be able to add more regarding Juan Pierre Luis' particular interest, but in terms of the docket itself, it's a relatively standard thing that we have done in the past. It has to go through the House. It does not ensure or promise that individual a position in the academy or a position as a police officer. It simply makes it so that they can apply, given the fact that they would be out of age either prior to the application or after the application process would have been completed. And so this would give him a waiver for that age requirement. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. The chair recognizes Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Lewis was already in the academy, had injured himself while he was in the academy, which pushed him out. He's currently now going through the process, so they're interviewing, they're doing, psych tests, home visits, that sort of thing. For him to be able to actually get on, we would need to pass this. This would be the first step, goes up to State House for home rule petition and on from there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Councilor Arroyo moves for passage of docket 1324. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Clerk, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Roll call vote on docket number 1324. Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Aye.
Councilor Baker, aye. Councilor Bach.
Aye.
Councilor Bach, aye. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Coletta.
Yes.
Councilor Coletta, yes. Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilor Fernandez Anderson, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Lara.
Yes.
Councilor Lara, yes. Councilor Louisian.
Yes.
Councilor Louisian, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor Murphy. Councilor Murphy, yes. Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Worrell. Docket number 1324 has received a unanimous vote.
Thank you. The docket is passed. Anyone else wishing to bring something forward on the green sheet? The chair recognizes Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the first of three that I want to pull here today. The first one is docket 1257 on page 14 of 21.
You haven't. Mr. Clerk, will you please read docket 1257 into the record?
From the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation, docket number 1257, petition of We Drive You for a license to operate motor vehicles for the carriage of passengers for hire over certain streets in Boston.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, can we do a roll call vote of the committee, please?
Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation, Councilor Baker.
Aye.
Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Braden. Yes. Councilor Lara. Yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
It's properly before the committee. The chair recognizes Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this petition for We Drive for a license to operate vehicles for the carriage of passengers for hire over certain streets. In that finding, the petitioner is applying for numerous and various routes and stopping places for licenses to operate motor vehicles, kind of trying to apply a Uber sort of model in terms of like the buses dropping off and picking up. Seems like a disaster to me, but so what I'm looking for here is to respectfully, having reviewed and considered this application, I respect that we recommend this petition is denied without prejudice, so they can come back in and apply for certain routes. Basically, to not have buses stopping on Boylston Street, stopping on Congress Street. When these are passed, they need the transportation department, the police department, multiple departments to have eyes on these so we know where they are and there's predictability in this. So again, I would like to deny without prejudice so they can come back and apply, break the applications up and apply for the routes as single routes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker moves to rejection without prejudice for docket 1257. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1257 has been rejected without prejudice. The chair recognizes Council Baker. Council Baker, you have the floor.
Yes, and I'd also like to pull two more from Planning and Development and Transportation on page 12 of 28, docket 1169, and also docket 1170, their zoning board appointments.
Yeah. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1169 into the record? Okay. Mr. Clerk, can you please read docket 1169 into the record and 1170 into the record?
From the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation, docket number 1169, message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of David Aiken as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeal for a term expiring May 1st, 2023. And docket number 1170, message in order for the confirmation of the appointment of Raheem Shepherd as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeal for a term expiring May 1st, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Can you poll the committee to ensure both dockets are properly before us?
The Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation, Councilor Baker.
Aye.
Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Braden. Yes. Councilor Lara. And Councilor Flaherty. Yes. All in the affirmative.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The chair recognizes Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. President. These are pretty straightforward. I'm familiar with both people here. The first one will be David Akins. We're running out of time in the schedule here, so I would like to have. We've had a full schedule for a while, but anyways, the hearing rooms are all booked up. So I would like to have hearings in January to move the rest of these along, but these are two that I'm comfortable moving along without hearings. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker moves for passage of docket 1169. We'll do it separately.
Yes.
1169. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Councilor Baker moves for passage of docket 1170. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 1170 has passed. Anyone else looking to bring something forward in the green sheets? The chair recognizes Councilor Lara. Councilor Lara, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Flynn. I'd like to pull docket number 1345 from page 7 of the green sheets.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, will you please read docket 1345 into the record?
From the Committee of Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks, docket number 1345. Message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend a grant in the amount not to exceed $400,000 from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, Division of Conservation Services, Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities Program. This grant is awarded to the City of Boston through the Parks and Recreation Department for renovations to O'Day Playground located in the South End neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Can you please poll the committee to ensure that it's properly before the body?
Committee on Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks, Councilor Lara.
Yes.
Councilor Braden. Yes. Councilor Worrell.
Yes.
Councilor Bach.
Yes.
And Councilor Coletta.
Yes.
All in the affirmative.
It's properly before the body. The chair recognizes Councilor Lara. Councilor Lara, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Flynn. The Boston Parks and Recreation Department has been awarded $400,000 by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to help fund the reconstruction of O'Day Playground that is located at 75 West Newton Street in the South End. The grant from the State Parkland Acquisitions and Renovations for Communities Program is ultimately going to augment the funding from the City of Boston Capital Improvement Program for the park. The project is going to renovate the basketball and multi-use court. It's going to build an inclusive children's play area with poured-in play safety surfacing, a water play area, install exercise equipment, and picnic and game tables at O'Day Park. renewed and inclusive children's play area is going to provide the real needed outlet to play for social enrichment of all the children with a variety of activities, including the water spray feature. The exercise equipment, basketball court, and bicycle racks are going to encourage movement for older teens and adults in the neighborhood. The project is really in line with Boston's goals for climate mitigation. It ultimately provides a shade pavilion, 8 new trees, and other plantings. The new vegetation is going to increase the tree canopy in the dense community, and the plantings and shade pavilion are going to buffer the area from extreme heat and afford the users the necessary respite from the sun. The passive area with the trees, benches, and tables will provide all ages, especially the seniors in the neighborhood, with a way to relax and socialize within a well-shaded location to help diminish the urban heat island effect. The state grant program, per the award letter, requires that the City of Boston submit a certified copy of the council vote to accept and expend the funds. And the draft accept and expend order was filed on October 31st of 2022. There's limited time left for us to get this done. And as the chair of the Committee of Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks, I recommend that we pass this docket. I'm really excited about this particular grant because, like most of you know, I was a street worker in Villa Victoria for 4 years, and I spent a lot of time at O'Day Playground, which the people in the neighborhood call Domestic Park. And I think that these renovations are not only necessary, but I think are owed to the people of that neighborhood, and everybody of all ages are really going to be able to take advantage of that park because it is very well loved and very well used. And I know, President Flynn, that this is your district, so if you want to share a few words, I cede the floor to you.
Thank you, Councilor Lara, and thank you, Councilor Lara, for the important work that you have done. I'm proud to represent this area along with Councilor Fernandez Anderson, who's just down the road a little bit, and with Councilor Baker as well. We kind of share that same area. I was at O'Day Playground last week, and they're doing the complete renovation soon of the playground, so I know this funding from the state will desperately help. I also want to acknowledge the legislators in the State House that represent the South End. It would be Senator Collins, Senator Edwards, Representative Michaelitz, and Representative Santiago. So they've been tremendous supporters for the South End neighborhood. Councilor Lara is moving for passage of docket 1345. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The docket has passed. Anything further on green sheets from anybody? Okay. We are now on to the consent agenda. I have been informed by the clerk that there is no additions to the consent agenda. The chair moves for the adoption of the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. The consent agenda has been adopted. Memorials. Today we were going to adjourn our meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilors Arroyo and Lara, George Herbert Lahame. For Councilors Arroyo, Flaherty, Flynn, and Louis Jean, Thelma Burns. For Councilor Flynn and Councilor Flaherty, Helen Alex and Paula Burton. For Councilor Lara, Najama Nazat. The victims of the Club Q shooting, including Daniel Davis Aston, Derek Rump, Kelly Loving, Ashley Paul, Raymond Green Vance. For the body, Dawood Sahadin. A moment of silence, please. The chair moves that when the council adjourns today, it does so in memory of those mentioned. We are now scheduled to meet again in the Ionella Chamber on Wednesday, December 7th at 12 noon. And before we adjourn, I want to say thank you to City Council Central staff, the City Clerk's office, and my colleagues. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
The council is adjourned.